Uh, Welcome, Timtooni.
Oh, thank you very much, Rafio.
Yeah, we are having the episode 9. Yeah, episode 8 of the Sanatu Zambang Experience. We've had the the cafe experience. Then we have the Ramadan edition too. So, welcome to the episode 8 of the cafe experience.
Oh, thank you. Very honored to be here.
Thank you too. Um, in an introduction, first of all, let's get an introduction from you, who you are, what you do, and if you're a native.
Okay. So my name is Junaid Timtooni Yakubu. I am a native of Tamale. I was born and raised here. Grew up here all of my life. Went to high school in Kumasi though, but then went to university in the US.
Okay.
I am a filmmaker, or let's say working on actualizing as a filmmaker. But since I've been back home for 2 years now, and since being back, I have been doing a lot of videography work, which is like shooting like videos, like covering events. Mostly I've been doing a lot of video editing, and this is kind of like the path I'm taking to sort of make ends meet while I figure out the real creative pursuit of writing, directing, and producing the movies that I want to produce.
Okay.
Yes.
That's quite interesting. Let's just go straight to your work. Let's go straight to your work. So currently, you ways and means to get your earnings is editing.
Yes.
Editing, and then so let's look at the film aspect. You've edited some films here in Tamale.
Yes. Yeah.
Any titles of these films you've edited, and what do you take from it as an editor?
Okay, so when I came back, that was in 2019. I had the opportunity of meeting this group of people that had been shooting a TV show for 2 years, the Northside TV series. I don't know if you ever heard about it. So they had been shooting, but didn't have an editor. So it was a lot of footage that had been compiled. And I knew the producer of the show, like we were childhood friends, Nana. So I met up with them. They told me the entire story about it, and from our discussions, I realized that I could help out by editing, you know. And that was also a means of connecting with the filmmaking community out here, because when I was coming back home, I actually was sort of uncertain as to whether I will meet people who I could work with or who shared in my interests, you know, at least for the kinds of things I wanted to do. So I initially thought I would be coming home, visiting my family, and then moving to Accra.
Okay.
But then I came home, settled, met with the Northside people, and then met with a few other people, and then opportunities came. So I have been editing Northside series for since I joined, since I came back. Yeah. But other than that, not any movies except for like short films that I have made. And I've done a couple of commercials, music videos, and all of that, you know. Yeah.
So let's just touch a tiny bit on Northside series. What is the story about? And is it a reflection of what is in Tamale, or is just a fictional Tamale? Okay.
Of course, it's fiction, right? But I think Northside, at least the intention behind it, as I understand it, was inspired by an idea to sort of expand people's ideas of what the North is. You know, so it started out, I think, as lifestyle Tamale, and at least the storyline follows two young men who are sort of affected by the current economic crisis and sort of have to figure out alternative means of making ends meet outside of getting the job and all of that, because that isn't working out, you know. And then it also follows a young woman who is dealing with reconnecting with her friend group, and her father's like ambitions for her to ascend and take over the business he had started for her, you know. In terms of whether it reflects Tamale life or not, I think I'll leave that up to the audience, you know. Yeah, you watch it and then you let me know if it reflects your Tamale.
All right.
You know? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's get to your short films before we go to your music videos and all of that. Short films. Let's start with casting. Do we have actors in Tamale? If yes, How do you find them? If you know, how do you find them?
That is a complicated question because I think when you're talking about casting, you also have to think about the budget you have.
Yeah.
So let's say I want to get the best actor in Tamale, and there are brilliant actors in Tamale. I mean, there is a Dabani film industry, right?
Yes.
I mean, can I afford to pay for their services? That is where the question comes in, because I mean, I'm currently working at a low budget level, you know, and the reason why I do short films is it's an avenue to experiment with storytelling, with ideas that you're trying to explore in the longer film, but are trying to see how they play out, you know. Also experimenting in like collaborative sort of systems. Like I meet a person who tells me, oh, let's work on something together. Maybe it's better to see how we work together on a short film before we go on a bigger film where like the risks are higher and then like maybe realize it's not quite a fit, right? So I have been working in short films mostly, and in terms of casting at my budget level, it is a little tricky because I meet a lot of people who are enthusiastic about acting, but are not necessarily actors, you know. So the potential exists, and I believe anyone can be an actor. But the thing is, it requires training. The thing is, because of my budget level and maybe because my access to really skilled actors is very limited, I also have to take on the responsibility of teaching these actors how to give the performance I want. Like currently I have the script, a very beautiful script, a lot of potential in it. The main character in it is a young girl, like between 6 and 10 years old. And she has to be fluent in speaking Dagbani, speaking English, you know. And my difficulty in finding this actor is that, well, I can find a child that is expressive. There are a lot of expressive children. But when it comes to a child that can actually listen to instructions and follow them, that is where it becomes tricky. So I've actually experimented to see if like a few kids in my neighborhood could play this thing, but I've realized it is a lot of work, you know. So I think the thing with casting is you can always find the right cast, but you need to take on the responsibility to do what you need to do to get them there, you know. Yeah, because a lot of directors in the world actually work with non-actors, and usually they're somehow able to get performances that sometimes you'd be like, okay, they should have been nominated for an Oscar, right? Because it was just so real and all of that, you know. So I guess maybe the way is just maybe even to some extent casting a person, if they're a non-actor, whose real life experiences somewhat are very close to the character that you are asking them to perform, you know, so that it's not too much of a leap or change. Yes.
So that means that given the kind of budget you have, the kind of actors or aspiring actors we have in the region, it limits your creativity when you're putting on the script. That's one way you can look at it, because you always have to write a script with the character in mind, because those are the people you have access to. So one way it doesn't limit your script writing ability.
Okay, so what I try to do, and yes, budget limits a lot of things. Like sometimes you want to write a movie that's, you know, like it's like a Lamborghini in the scene, right? But you don't have a Lamborghini, so like you use a Toyota Corolla instead. That's what happens. But I try as much as possible in terms of characters to not really limit things, because I feel like when it comes to low budget filmmaking or storytelling, the best thing your best resource is actually your characters and your storyline, you know. Maybe you can compromise on things like costumes, maybe like like props and all of that, but when it comes to the actual story you're telling and the characters, I think there you want to make sure that they are so well rendered that even if it doesn't look like a glossy Hollywood film, whoever watches it is like, wow, I connected with these characters. I really feel this character's pain. I really feel this character's purpose, you know, that kind of thing. Because to some extent, you only have very limited opportunities to grab an audience's attention. And what I feel is the best way to do that is to first write a script with a point of view. So that means I don't quite like the idea of script by committee. And what I mean by that is like when it doesn't have a point of view, or it's like 10 people's points of view in it, then it becomes about nothing in a way, you know. I think it does need to have a point of view, but I also think that the richness of the story and the characters have to be as best as you can make it, because that you have control over. Like the rich man and the poor man all have the pen and paper, you know. So to some extent, what do you make of it? Yeah.
All right. And now, you how many short films have you shot so far?
Okay. So I think in order to get to that, I would have to take you through my history in a way, because I'm back in Ghana. Like I've been back in Ghana this time for 2 years, but at the beginning of my filmmaking journey, this was in my second year of university, I had decided that I wanted to make films, but the film course in my school was more theoretical than practical. So I had taken courses that exposed me to filmmaking, screenwriting, which was very important because you need to write it, like even the religions, right? In the beginning was a word, so like it starts from the word. So I realized I needed to find a way to get practical experience. But with the curriculum at school, it was a lot of work, so it would have been hard to make time outside of my classes and homework to make films. So at the end of my second year, I decided I would take a break from school for 1 year, come back home.
Wait, in the US you can.
It's open, yeah. Like it's a liberal arts program, right? So the beauty of it is that you
can't take a
break. Of course, of course. So the beauty of it is that like you aren't committed to a major for your first 2 years. Yes. So like the idea is that you would explore different courses. So I remember like my first year I took an acting class, I took a biology class, because at the time I thought, oh, maybe I want to be a doctor, right? I took psychology classes, some engineering classes, that kind of thing. So it's very like multidisciplinary, right? And the idea is that you can only know what you want to do by having some experience with it, So I took all these courses and I was like, I think I really am interested in storytelling. And that's because also I had been reading a lot when I was before university, watching a lot of movies. I thought I wanted to be an actor, but I realized actually what I wanted to do was be behind the camera, Yeah. So fast forward to end of my second year, I sort of invested some money, bought a camera, bought a basic microphone, got a tripod. Then I came back home. And then I remember first 5 weeks back home, I was very, very proactive. I made 5 short films of varying levels of quality, really terrible, some kind of inspired, And my cast was my family, my younger brother, my sister, my cousins. But I learned a lot during that process, I was also watching a lot of movies. I got a lot of old Japanese movies, like I would watch movies according to the director who made them. So I think
Quentin is one of them.
Quentin Tarantino, exactly, really phenomenal.
Japanese,
well, Quentin Tarantino, yeah, American, but like
but I know he's more of a Japanese kind of stuff.
Yeah, he likes that kind of stuff. So that was a very interesting experience because I started out working in a small circle of influence, so like my family, right? My brother, my sister, like it's my family, right? So to some extent, they sort of supported me. And at the time, my mom didn't quite understand, like, oh, do the medicine thing. Or well, why are you doing this? But I think over the course of my year being back, just the drive of going out, trying to find the cast, trying to find the crew, shooting something, bringing it home, editing it, showing it to them. To some extent, I won't say she understood it, but she was like, okay, I think I'm lucky that she had always been supportive of what I was interested in, even if like she didn't understand it, right? So like she started to be more open to the idea of it. And I remember, I initially started with just my family, but then as I was doing it, I was able to sort of show it to my friends and be like, hey, would you like to act in the next one? Would you like to act in the next one? So at some point, some of my friends who also didn't quite understand what I was doing, but because they're friends with me, I guess, chose to support me. They introduced me to a couple of actors or people interested in acting that they know who were in UDS at the time, So that led to some pretty interesting collaborations, which are going on today. Like I should probably mention Hamda, like really multi-talented actress who is in medical school now, going to be a doctor. Like it's just really brilliant, the talents people have here, But she's one of the people I met during that year, and I worked a lot with her. on a couple of projects. Some were good, some were terrible. You know, I think that's the thing, you know, in the creative process, like, you really have no control over what the outcome is. I think as I've gone through it, it's more like just believing in your voice. Yeah. So, general estimates, I made probably like 7 or 8 short films during that year. When I went back to school, I probably made like 6 or 7, some short films, some experiments. Like, I used to do this thing where I'll take a scene from a movie, then just remake it. Yeah. And I think that's a very beautiful exercise, actually, that a lot of young aspiring filmmakers should do. I should do more of that, actually. Since come back, I've made 2 short films, but I have written a lot of scripts, though, because I think script writing has become something that has been more accessible to do this time around. Because of the schedule, I'm always at the desk editing and all of that, than going out and shooting. So maybe in total, maybe like close to 20. Yeah. Yeah.
And the whole experimenting and the shooting. I remember Martin Scorsese said that when you finish filming your first cut and you don't get nervous, and that means something is wrong.
Yeah.
We've all been in the film, you shoot and you come in. You now have to figure out what you're going to do about it. So we are almost getting to the latter part of it. We have like 5 minutes. When you look at Tamale, for instance, do you think, we know that the Ghana movie industry has really laid a very solid foundation in terms of our storytelling and all that. Now it's on us. Someone said that when you watch movies, it tells you the kind of people who live in that particular environment. Do you think our Dagbani movies that we watch, recent Dagbani movies, compared to the old one, is there a difference on how it gives the outlook of we, the northern people, the Yoruba people, and even our culture?
Yeah. So I think my opinion on this, I think every film is sort of worthwhile because, like, it comes from a point of view, there are experiences behind it and whatnot, you know. I think the judgment as to whether or not it has good impact or not is up to the general audience to decide, you know. But what I would say though is I feel like there's a lot of potential in terms of the stories that we have, just based on what we are going through in the country right now, what our histories have been. And there's a lot of storytelling potential. Like, I mean, I look at what a person like OBL is doing, and OBL's process, from conversations I've had from him, what I glean is that he does a lot of research into our history and then tries to come up with ways of telling stories that are reflective of those histories, but also have something to say about today's age. I think we are not pushing things as far as we could push, but that could also be because of the circumstances of how to sell films. Because if you look at the film industries right now, like, if I had $1 million and invested it in making a really beautiful film, what avenues for distribution in this continent and in the world do I have to make back that money? That's the big question, right? Because often, like, we complain that our Ghanaian movies are not good enough, are lazy and all of that, you know. But from a business point of view, if I'm a film producer, it might make sense to invest the $1 million into making 1,000 mediocre films over the course of maybe a 10-year period, because I know I might get the profit out of it, you know, like, because it's 1,000 pieces I'm selling, not just one thing, one unit. But then, for my purpose, what I want to do, I think I really would like to aspire to making the kind of films that I love to watch in cinemas. Like, if you look at the world, the voice of Africa has been very non-existent. Perhaps in the field of music, we are getting some sort of impact now. In the world of literature, actually, like, we talk about storytelling, filmmaking being a medium of storytelling, African literature has been really beautiful. There are so many beautiful African novels. And a big question I've had is, why aren't our filmmakers adapting some of these novels? But you come to realize a lot of the good novels that have been written, the rights to them, the cinematic rights to them, have been bought by these European or American companies, you know. So to some extent, I feel like as filmmakers need to start like thinking about screenwriting a lot more, thinking about researching into our histories a lot more, to find stories to tell that have never been told in the world. Look at Bollywood films. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie Bahubali. Beautiful film, you know? Like, it's not exactly a mythological story, but it has a certain mythological elements, right? You know? Why, like, we watch it here, and even though we are not Indian, we connect with it. Why? Because even though it's the experiences from a whole other part of the world, there's something universal in the human experience. There's a saying that that which is personal is also universal. I don't know if I'm saying it properly, right? And often, like, as filmmakers here, because of the like intent of making money on what we've like made, we come from, we try to think about what audiences have liked in the past and try to now fabricate a story based on what we know they like. But my feeling is that what that does is you end up making an imitation of what the audiences have already seen. So they watch and like, oh, I've seen this already. Like, it's pointless. It's a waste of money, right? But I think if you come from the space of, who am I? What do I care about? What do I want to say? And then maybe you start to assemble a story based on that. You might come up with something that is truthful to your experiences. And because I believe there's a lot in common universally amongst human beings, it's being truthful to your experiences, it might have a very good chance of connecting with a wide audience, hopefully. But the thing is, I feel like we never really can tell what the outcome would be. We just need to have faith in the process and believe, and at least believe that our point of view has merit. Yeah.
So final question, we wrap up. The recent, I like that you mentioned the recent activities you are having, or the recent challenges you are facing as a country, as a region. Do you think political power, do you think political decisions, or do you believe political decision, political power has influence on filmmaking?
Oh yeah.
In terms of the economy, in terms of the decision people make, does it have influence, or it does have influence on filmmaking and on filmmakers in general?
Oh, of course. Definitely. Like, and I mean, there are so many precedents of that in our like histories too, right? You know, like journalism being like affected by political influence, you know, or even if you look at the field of African literature, like a lot of the political novelists in Africa, like Ngugi wa Thiong'o, you know, like I think like it's like one example, you know, like he wrote a lot of political novels about what's going on in Kenya, Weep Not Child, Wizard of the Crow, all of that, you know. He was imprisoned at some point, you know, like and in fact I understand like he was met with some sort of abuse when he visited Kenya, like in the early 2000s. And you hear about so many stories of our political novelists or political artists being exiled from their countries because the things that they are saying, the governments don't like it because it's such a reflection of who they are. It's like they're holding up a mirror and it's like, government, you are this ugly, look at yourself. And the government finds that offensive. I think if we have filmmakers who are coming from the place of trying to make movies about what is going on here and around them, it would end up having to be political. Like if I get up and I'm trying to make a movie about how young people are impacted by the current economic crises, even looking at our electricity problems, our water problems, how that affects young business owners. Like, okay, like the public sector is clogged, there's no more employment opportunities. Young people are now trying to start businesses that need electricity, that need water. They are willing to pay for these services. As a government, you haven't been able to get your shit together to provide these things. So now what do you want them to do? No jobs in the public sector. We are trying to make things work on our own, and still you are not putting in place the infrastructure to support these things. So what do we do now? That's the question, you know. But I think one last point before we end. I think like one thing that I've noticed here is also that, you know, like as I said, when I came back, people were like, oh, go to Accra, that's the place to go, have opportunities as a creative and all of that, you know. I know, like, and I mean, like, I feel like I've seen a fair amount of the world. I feel like the smartest people I've ever met have all been from Tamale. Like growing up, like the smartest people I know, like have all been from Tamale. I think we just face a problem of our system pushes people into spaces or positions that they don't quite want to be in or don't quite fit in. So you have a person who really wants to be a writer, who is working as a doctor. Now, the medical field is very important, yes, but to some extent, like if they don't feel like they belong there, what does that do to the service they would be offering? Like I mean, like my family was trying to influence me to go into medicine, right? I would say right now, I think I would have been a terrible doctor because my heart would not have been in it, right? I think what we need is the building of communities. Like I've met a lot of young people who are like interested in storytelling in the creative fields. I think the beauty of creative fields is that you have to be innovative in order to be relevant. You cannot keep doing the same thing year in, year out. You have to keep learning, you have to keep expanding. I think our nation needs that. Africa needs that, And the beauty of community building is that it allows us more power than we have individually, Like by myself, I can only make so much. In legion with other people, the possibilities might be beyond our imagination, Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Timtooni, for joining us.
No, thank you.
We'll find another day and we can expand on this
Of course.
conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining the Cafe Experience.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So, welcome, Dr. Seidu Fitter.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the Sanatu Zambang Café Experience.
It's a pleasure.
Yes. We've monitored your work with your activism, your advocacy, and your political arguments. We've been monitoring for the past let's say four years. Yes, we've monitored for the past 4 years, and we didn't know the best time to bring you in. We decided that this would be the best time to bring you in to have a conversation with you. And I want us to discuss something on politics of service, a journey into the future.
Okay.
I think we already started it briefly. Dr. Seidu, first of all, maybe some of our audience will not know who you are, so if you could introduce yourself to us.
Okay. Well, good morning. My name is Dr. Seidu Fiter. The Fitter is part of my daddy's name.
Okay.
Fitter not as in a name, but as in a mechanic, a bicycle mechanic.
Okay.
Back at the primary school, when you get to the point, like when you are doing English, they ask your colleagues to introduce themselves, as in myself.
Yes.
Someone will introduce him or herself and say, my father is a doctor, my mother is a nurse, etc.
Yeah.
And I got up and told them my father was a bicycle fitter, and everyone were laughing at me. Well, sometimes my negatives are used to inspire me. I don't look at my family alone is an inspiration for me. I don't listen to inspirational speakers because where I'm coming from is enough inspiration for me. My dad, growing up, a very poor man, wanting to have a doctor in his family. Thank God, out of 19 kids, he now finally have a doctor in his family. Those who laughed at me today, I don't know where they are, but I believe that they wouldn't be happy that they laughed at me. Because today when my kids are going to introduce themselves, they will say my father is a doctor, my mother is a nurse. The narrative has changed. And so that's the filter I attach to myself, to always remind myself where I'm coming from, so I won't forget, that I'm from a poor home. And so when I meet anyone who is poor and starting like me, I'll know how to respect the person's journey. I always differ. For instance, if your dad is a minister, your mother is whatever, a rich person, you can't come to inspire me because you have gotten everything easy. I passed through a lot. I learned 4 professions: 1 a blacksmith, 2 a carpenter, 3 a welder, and 4 a bicycle fitter before I get this far. And so it's not been an easy journey. But well, we are here today, we thank God, and we are still pushing harder to see where we'll end. I know that it's only the cemetery that will separate us from our dreams. We will never stop pushing hard.
Yeah, I think that's a motivational quote here.
Yeah.
So, Doc, politics of service, a journey into the future.
Yeah.
The current political trend in Ghana.
Yeah.
Would you call it a threat? Would you call it an element of evolution? or revolution, or would you call it, how will I say, rhythms of the past? Because it keeps repeating and repeating all the time.
Well, I think that Ghana, it would have been better for us to go back to the period of the military government, that is revolution, because no political party is changing anything, in my opinion. I belong to a political party. And I think that nowadays, most people get into the game because of money, to fill their pockets, to build new houses. They have seen their friends driving new cars, and they also want to drive new cars without sweating. And they want to pass through all means to make money. And so I think that the past was better than now. I mean, today you can go to 4 different stores to buy cement, and they give you different prices. But during the military period, they stabilize the prices. When you go to store A and you get something for 2 cedis, store B will be 2 cedis, store D will be 2 cedis, in that order. But now they all have their different prices. And when you ask them, they give you flimsy excuses. You can imagine someone buying something for instance, 20 Ghana cedis from Accra, come to Tamale and sell it at 70 Ghana cedis, right? And when you ask, because there's no political will to regulate prices of goods and services. And that also, we fear to do it because we will always go to the business person to beg for money to come and run our campaigns. And at the end of the day, when we also win the elections, we won't do what we promise people that we'll come to do. We'll go and be buying the expensive houses. We will no more be challenging each other on development. We challenge each other on the type of cars we have been able to buy within a period of 4 years, just in power, for 7 no serious portfolio. I mean, I ask myself so many times, a member of parliament who probably was struggling to make ends meet or get 3 square meal a day will be able to get 2 V8 within 4 years. And the salary is only 20,000 Ghana cedis. 20,000 Ghana cedis. And you're able to get 2 V8s within 4 years. A big machine within 4 years. And some go to the extra mile of, I mean, the number of things they procure within that 4 years. You ask yourself questions, where do you get them? I just viewed a picture on my phone, a picture sent to me by a journalist at Sagani TV, Ms. Alansa, showing me a school at, I mean, within his electoral area, at Jantong electoral area. Students cannot get junior high school education because one side of the classroom has fallen down. No furniture in the classrooms, but you have politicians in all political divide having these big VAs, which money would have been able to even build, I mean, a school structure for these people. But those who are beneficiaries to this school will not mind, because probably when you want to raise the issue, because it is an MPP government that's in power, the MPP people who are even struggling, I mean, to get their kids to their next community to attend school, they will come to defend because the person belongs to their political party. When you want to jab the MP, the NDC people will stand up against you because the member of parliament represents their party. And so I think so far, the way we are running our politics is not helping. There's no future unless there's a revolution. And the revolution should be staged by the youth of this country and not the military. We have to understand that, look, these men are doing these things that will affect us in the near future. For instance, someone who has eaten his cake at the age of 40 years, because life, they say, starts at 40. But it is only in Ghana that we say that. In the outside world, where, I mean, a brother of mine who sat here before, yeah, I mean, has gone to school and returned. At the age of 18 years or 16, you should be independent. You should be able to get your own apartment, get a proper job to take care of yourself, right? But you get someone at the age of 40 who has seen it all, gotten all the mansions, sent the kids to school outside the country to become doctors, engineers, etc. The person at the age of 80 still wants to lead in this country. So when are we going to start? So we need a revolution. And a revolution should be that we should be honest as youth, put our priorities right, and bring our head forward and contest for positions in the political circles. I mean, someone will sit down and say, for me, I'm not interested in this politics. It's so bad, it's so nasty, etc. It's occupied by thieves. Yes. The thieves will always continue to switch off their light, and it will affect Sanatu Zambang studios. They will continue to off their light, and it will affect Timtooni, who is a film director. Okay? But if Timtooni had known, look, this thing is affecting my business, and for that matter, I have to correct the system, then he come out and involve himself in the politics. I remember during a period of Ramadan, Bilal Phillips was coming to Tamale, and they raised an alarm that these were terrorists coming to the country. It took Muntaka Mubarak and Limuna to see the national security people to allow them to enter. Imagine if we weren't having Muslims as ministers. What would have happened? I am sure one day we would have woken up and they would tell us not to pray again. And so if you want the right things to be done, get yourself involved in the politics, but do it the right way. And know that one day you will die. And you'll be accountable for everything that you do. Sometimes when you say this, people will say that, oh, it's because you haven't gotten there. I have gotten to the apex, though I've never been an appointee. But any opportunity a person needs to make money in politics, I have gotten there. I have shared watermelon in the same plate with a president before. I have never in my life begged him to give me a car. Go outside and look at my car. People see you and tell you, oh, you should have been driving a Porsche car. Yes, I know. But the number of people who knock at my door to pay school fees in a day, I mean, are more than 10 in a day. More than 10 people knock at your door. Genuinely. I remember last year, a lady that I helped to secure funding to pay her school fees, buy her laptop, hire accommodation for her to go to school. Now she calls me daddy. She's 18 years, she's doing medicine. In the next 6 or 7 years, she'll be a doctor. Because there's a certain Seidu Fitter who doesn't want to drive a Porsche car, and the girl will remain a straight child selling pure water to survive. So we can do it together, but we need a revolution. And the revolution, we the youth have to take it up. Other than that, I don't see any future in this politics we do in this country.
And taking up the mantle, we the young people coming up.
Yeah.
We had Amina Pana, one of the strong NDC young hopeful coming into the picture. Yeah, I think Amina Pana. Yeah, Amina Pana. Yeah, Pana. Yes, Pana. Sorry, Pana. Yes, Pana. She's one of the active and vibrant young people in the NDC sector.
Okay.
She came and she spoke about young people getting these mantles, getting these positions. We also had the likes of Haji Rabi Nasara from the NPP. And their problem is they don't have the resources to make this revolution. I remember Madam Hamdia of the NDC, Hamida of the NDC, Abdul Rahman, also came here and spoke passionately about how these kinds of suffering triggered Rawlings to start the revolution.
Sure.
But here we are, we can't actually do what Rawlings did because of democracy, peace, UN and all that. And we don't also have the resources to challenge those who are currently occupying these positions. Dr. Seidu Fitter, what should we do? We don't have the resources and we don't have the muscles to pull a revolution.
I have always said that when we are talking about revolution, we're not talking about the gun of a revolution.
Okay.
We need only a strong mind and strong heart to do this, take this revolution.
Okay.
And whenever we talk about resources, I mean in pushing a revolution or an agenda, that's a mind of corrupt people, right? Yes. My reason is simple. I contested as parliamentary candidate in the Tolon constituency in the last 2 years to lead them as their member of parliament. And I made it clear to them that one, I'm not going to construct any pavilion for anyone to sit down and lazy himself. I will only use that money to put up furniture, because I went and met delegates in classrooms where we were virtually standing throughout the meeting for 2-3 hours. And I was asking myself questions. Kids in those communities will wake up in the morning, come and lie down on the floor to learn. And I'm just imagining how someone can lie on the floor and learn and pass an exam. Even those of us who are sitting on furniture to write exams, were we able to make it? How much more someone who will come and lie on the floor to learn and pass an exam? That's a question. 2, the classrooms were not having windows or doors, and so after class you lock them. So you have animals enter inside the classroom, wee on the floor, and the next morning a student who is going to use this classroom will go and fetch water on the head from a dam to come and wash the floor first, go and fetch another one to bath and come and lie on that floor to learn. The teacher doesn't even have a furniture to sit and assess these kids and mark their scripts. Yet the father or the parents of these kids are asking for a pavilion to sit under and discuss politics. Okay, and they are the same delegates who are supposed to vote for you. So when you put on a plate the furniture and the pavilion, they pick the pavilion over the furniture. And they'll tell you when you don't give them the pavilion, yes, they will not vote for you. I sacrificed some votes in some communities because I told them I will not do pavilions for them. I'll rather bring the furnitures to them. If they won't use it, they can go and bend them or turn them into pavilions and sit under. But I will not leave, the legacy of putting pavilions around for people to sit under and lazy themselves. I didn't grow up to see my father sit under a pavilion. My father is not politically active, and so maybe that is the reason why he doesn't sit under a pavilion. Same as my mother. I've never seen my mother in a political grouping. I just decided to be in politics. But I believe that my father, if he was going to also be sitting under a pavilion, he would have been so lazy that he wouldn't have thought that he needs a doctor in his family. Right? Sometimes they sit under these pavilions and discuss nothing close to anything better that will develop the society. But you have youth, my age mates, who are also delegates but sitting under these pavilions and were requesting for the pavilion instead of furniture for the classrooms. And so these young people are the same people who are going to be against you. They will say you are too young to contest for these positions. I was pushing for a reduction of even filing fees. I paid $27,000 to file my nomination. I didn't go for a loan and I didn't sell any assets to contest for this position. During the last minute, people were sharing 50 Ghana cedis, 100 cedis to polling stations, etc. And I told them I don't have anything to share. I have their money, but I'm reserving them to pay my kids' school fees. And anyone who will be coming among them to pay school fees and doesn't have their money, so I can support you. And I can mention a lot of things. I have a young man who abandoned school in 2003 because of the fact that he couldn't buy school uniform for himself, sandals, etc. I bought these things for this young man to go back to school, Kumbungu Senior High School. During the period of the voting, he came and he was fooling one guy because the guy was able to put up a pavilion in his community. So when we talk about revolution, we're not talking about the guns, we're talking about the mind. And it is not about the MPP or NDC. Whichever political party we find a young man who wants to cause a change in society, we have to push the person. You are all aware and witnesses when COVID-19 broke up. I took it upon myself. I'm not the only doctor in Tamale, not the only Dagoma doctor in Tamale. All other guys went to sleep. Yeah? I granted radio interviews. We have to be doing preventive medicine than curative because our systems are always overwhelmed. And so when there's a pandemic, we cannot manage it as we are even failing to manage COVID-19. The cases are increasing day by day. They are even adding up more now than before. People are dying now than before. But we have forgotten about it and gone to sleep. Because one person cannot. That is the revolution we're talking about. You don't just wake up and think about the paycheck. If nobody pays me to do this, I will not do it. When you're always thinking about the money and you get the opportunity in politics, you'll be thinking of buying a V8. Sorry to ask this. When you are a school dropout, you have a sister who is struggling to pay school fees, and you get the opportunity to meet a politician, and you are asking for iPhone 12 Pro or whatever. Are you okay? What are you going to use it for? Naturally, iPhone was not even made for Africans. Yeah? It functioned well under a Wi-Fi.
Yes.
That you can find in advanced countries like US and other countries, but not even in Ghana. But how can you even carry a phone that you can buy at 5,000 cedis and come to request for 1,000 to pay school fees? That is part of the revolution we're talking about. If not because of education, we wouldn't have been here. Okay? So we still have to go to school. I have never gotten tired of going to school. For instance, this year I want to go and do specialization in a different field. And by the next 3 years, I should have a PhD in addition to the professional doctor. Somebody will ask you, what are you chasing? I'm chasing a dream to inspire my kids to know that you shouldn't ever get tired of doing what you want to do. For the whole of my life, education has been my priority. And that is fun for me. I just want to go to school and get to the apex where I'll be tired and say, I cannot go anymore. But that won't even stop you from reading. It's not about buying the most expensive car. Who will see you? There's no car you drive that someone has never driven before. Any phone that you use today, tomorrow, it will be an old fashioned and another one will come. We would never have what we want till the end of this world. So there should be a revolution. We should know what we want. But if you are going chasing something that, I mean, sorry to say this, you're using iPhone 12 Pro, or which one is the latest one now?
12 Pro Max.
12 Pro Max,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, and your parents are finding it difficult to make ends meet in a day. Who are you making fun of? That's part of the revolution we're talking about.
So,
And someone who wants to get it, like you, will say, okay, let me get into politics. So when I get into it, one day I'll get it done easy.
yeah.
So you get the opportunity to serve as national service, coordinator. Then you secure 20 or 30 pins for yourself. At the end of the month, you get up to 20,000, just national service boss, besides your salary. And you have graduates who are supposed to do the national service, not getting their pins to do it, and get their 750 Ghana cedis. That's the corruption I am talking about. And that's the revolution I'm talking about. We can change ourselves. By coming out to speak to matters, getting platforms. Let's discuss. Let's openly make declarations to let people understand, look, we are not in a competition to win on who wears the best clothing. For me, I can wear one trousers for 3-4 days. But what I make sure doesn't depreciate is what is in my head. Because it won't change anything. So when we're talking about revolution, the youth have to get involved in politics, but they should know what they want to do in politics, causing a change.
So, you're listening to the last part. You spoke about the time is limited for you.
That's right.
We would like to have this conversation till tomorrow.
Yes.
So, now, that means that this revolution is about mental revolution.
That's
we have
right.
to change our mentality.
That's right.
So, when you look into the future of Ghana and the youth today, what do you want to see? Or what do you see for the youth? Like, if we actually embark on this mental revolution, what will the future hold for us?
You see, it is not too close as I would have expected. We've been talking about light out intermittently.
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes you have light, the next minute you don't have light. People gadgets are spoiling. Your TV, because of the light out, your TV is no more working, your phone. A politician in your party will get you a different phone to use on social media to praise him. I have not gotten those problems out of the doom saw. I have come on social media to complain, then you come to defend it when your TV is having a problem out of light out. We are not okay. We love our party so much so that we hate ourselves. The TV is yours. You use your money to buy the TV. You use your money to buy the phone. Someone is offing the lights without informing you, giving you reasons why the light is going off. You have gotten a different phone from a minister or MP because he doesn't want you to come on social media to blame the government. And you are there praising someone who is spoiling your TV. This is completely slavery. And no more politics. I, Seidu Fitter, I don't think I'm ready to do anything of a sort. If the government is not doing well, even if it is your party, you speak out. That is where your leader will know, yes, this young man is a man of his own. I personally, let me tell you the story. On the 7th of March 2017, by which time the NDC had lost power. On the 7th of March, I was in the room of the former president with Ibrahim Mama, his younger brother. And he was asking me to share my opinion on reasons why he lost the election. The first point I made was the cancelling of allowances for teacher trainees. It was a policy direction you wanted to give, but you don't just change the system at once. It's a gradual, step you have to take before you get to the end. If you were paying 400, you can divide it into two. I'll pay you 200, so it can open up space for me to admit another student from your family and pay the person 200. With time, I'll tell you, okay, let me give you 100 Ghana cedis and give this person 100 Ghana cedis. Then we can get additional 2 people into the school from your family. So at the end of the day, you have 4 teachers in your family. You share the 400 among yourself, and when you come, you get a direct employment. But if you take it out at once, yes, it's a good policy, but someone in the village who was taking the 400 to support him or herself to pay school fees and complete, will be at the receiving end. Education will now remain for those, for children who are from, rich families. He said, no, this is a clear point. And I think our policy advisors got it wrong. Until date, we are jailing well because I told him the truth. You don't always have to sing the praise of a politician because he's your paymaster. And so when he doesn't give you anything, you won't have anything to, survive on. And it is also because of our laziness and lack of creativity. Okay, if you're a professional doctor and at the end of the day, you come out, you want the government to give you clearance, you go and work at the hospital and that's it. You have HND graduates holding certificates around, creating unemployed graduates association and what have you. When did we get here? For instance, when you come to the medical school, whether you are doing community nutrition, you are doing nursing, you are doing doctor in laboratory sciences, you are doing MBH, you will learn statistics, you will learn mathematics, and you will learn physics. I have friends who have read oil and gas management and they are working in the banking sector because at one point in time you will learn a course relating to banking. Right? You will learn communication skills. People, we have on our radio stations, sometimes people spew out, misinformation because they don't even have senior secondary education. You can be a doctor and work in a radio station, receive the 200 cedis. One day you change the system. The person will sit down and say, I'm too big to work at this radio station and take 200 Ghana cedis. You are not only working for the money, you want to change the system. I have been to the Polytechnic before I proceeded to the university. Look, after Polytechnic education, I was applying for a job at a teaching hospital. It was not coming. So one day I sat in a room and asked myself, are you going to continue applying for a job when your family are waiting for you to pay fees? No. I thought, look, I have studied accounting, but people are, jostling around looking for accommodations in Tamale. People have their accommodations or apartments looking for people who also come in and rent. So what can I do to make ends meet? I'll look for you, the landlord, ask for the price of a room, how much you are giving the room out, then I advertise my number. If you are also a tenant or also looking for a room, then you look for me. I'll connect you to the landlord. The landlord will tell you, look, the room is going for 20 Ghana cedis, but I am adding 5 cedis to it, making it 25 Ghana cedis. We can only bargain on my 5 cedis. The least we can go is 21 Ghana cedis. Then I can also get 1 Ghana per year, right?
Yes.
Per month. So for a year, I'll get something out of it and go and put in my account. That was what I did after Polytechnic to sponsor myself 6 years through the university. I didn't go to any politician to pay my school fees. My parents didn't even have that money to pay my school fees. In fact, I did that and supported my younger brother. And today he's doing his master's. After working for 4 years as a senior nurse, he graduated at UDS with a degree in nursing. So sometimes we have to be creative. But we are so lazy that when you don't get a job, the only thing you have to do is to go to the politician and beg for money. So you cannot go to them one day again to ask for them to put furniture in a classroom because they have already given you the furniture money to buy a car or iPhone. Yeah. You get it? Yeah. I have easy access to a lot of politicians in my party, and so many of our guys will ask you, why are they opening themselves up to you so easily? And I tell you that I don't go to them to beg for money to go buy food for my family. You cannot do that because, look, my kids also have to one day look at me and say, my father, he went through a lot to feed us. And for that matter, we also have to take care of him. But when they know even the tea you take was sponsored by the MP of your community, they will know you didn't even take care of them after all. You all enjoyed at the benevolence of a politician who they will also grow up to be voting. So we need a revolution. And it has to start from us. The 5 of us here. We are below 40 years, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Below 40 years, right?
Yes.
But where are we heading to now? Because in the past, we wouldn't have light out like this. It was not going off like this. But we didn't have factories. Now we have factories, but we don't have light. And without light, you can't power a factory. And look at the way, I mean, even education came into northern region. Look, even in 1985, we were one northern region. We didn't even have Upper East, Upper West. Right? Yes. We came out crying for the government to divide the regions so we can all have administrative powers to push for development, forgetting that we use the one bigger northern region voice to get a UDS. Because Rollins couldn't just lie down and imagine northern region, the biggest region in Ghana, not having a university. After they had pushed for a technical institute to be converted into a polytechnic, we could get a diploma, but not a degree, because you have to travel from Tamale to Accra or Kumasi to get a university education. In 96, he brought up the University for Development Studies. So they gave one to the Navrungo side, Wa, then Nyang. I mean, it all started at Nyankpala. Then they gave Navrungo, Wa, and then Tamale, where they moved the community nutrition, medicine to Tamale. Right. When we pushed for development to have our administrative powers, he gave us. And it was the same voice we used to get a Bank of Ghana in Tamale. The same voice we used for Achampong to give us a regional hospital in Tamale, which is now a teaching hospital, and a referral center for all the 5 northern regions. Yes. When we pushed for administrative powers, they gave us Upper East, Upper West. Do we have a Bank of Ghana like this one at Upper East or Upper West? No. Since we got administrative powers in 1985, have we gotten ADB? Have we gotten Bank of Ghana? And now they have even changed the name of UDS at Navrungo and Wa. And they are introducing courses they are running at Navrungo and Wa in Tamale. Who leave Accra and come here to go to Wa to study a course that they can get in Tamale? So if care is not taken, the Navrungo UDS and the Wa UDS, they will all collapse or they will fold them up. Because universities are run by IGF. Yeah. Okay, the youth could rise up and tell the chief that, look, you don't know what you are doing. If you cry for these administrative powers to come, we can't have the same opportunities. No matter what happens, Tamale will still remain the center of the northern region. Now, at our age, young guys pushed for us to have Northeast and Savannah region. When is Savannah region going to get a teaching hospital? When Upper East and Upper West are yet to get one?
Dr. Singh, these are questions we can answer today.
You get it. And so, and now, the danger is also poses, like my sister earlier, opined concerning the issue of religion. Yes. Is that we weren't seeing Frafres and Grushis as people from an alien land because we were one. But when we were growing up and we realized that we are from different regions, we're now asking Ayambong, is this your land? Very soon people will begin asking Gonjes and Mampusis, is this your land? And watching the political space. I have seen people wanting to contest for positions in Tamale, but they are Mampusis. And people are telling them to go back to their home, their communities. Ashanti region is bigger than northern region when it comes to population. And Greater Accra, why are they not dividing those places and they are dividing northern region? And this one is led by young people like you and I. They know we have one voice, and that one voice is bringing development to us, and they don't like it. So the best way is to enslave our minds to think that they want to give us our own region and develop us. And when they do that, they weaken us. Now tell me, in Northeast region, we have only 6 constituencies. How can you go to the government and brag that you need a teaching hospital with only 6 constituencies? When Ashanti region will come with 47? When can Tamale go, the old northern region go, with 18 constituencies and brag that we now need, a Senate tower bigger than this one with only 18 when Ashanti region go with 47? We're having only one traditional administrative powers, where a chief can tell the government, we don't like this, and the president will listen. And let me tell you a secret. We have a PhD holder in oil and gas management. I respect education. Who should have been a minister of energy? Right? But because he's coming from a north and the chief doesn't have the power because the chiefs are not united, one king in Ashanti region could call the president to give energy ministry to a dentist to manage energy ministry in Ghana. I'm not sure America will do that. You cannot tell a blacksmith to operate on me. It makes no sense. And you cannot tell me you don't need an expert in energy to manage energy. Then next time when you are sick, you don't go to the hospital. Go to the cinema instead. Yeah? People who knows what should handle, positions where they are best at. Because the chief is managing 47 constituencies. And this one is managing only 18. And you can't use 18 to brag in front of 47. So we didn't know they were cutting our voice. We thought they were coming to develop us. Go to Upper East, sorry to say, they still have two traffic lights. That's it, 2 traffic lights since 1985. Are we developing? It is not an intention to develop us. Rawlings divided us in 1985 because there was an agenda or a propaganda from the Ashanti folks who fed into the minds of us and we bought into it. Now when they post you as a Konkumba man, a Kusasi man, a Dagomba man, to Bolga, they wouldn't accept you because they don't see you as one of them. Meanwhile, it used not to be so. They will say they are doing this because they want to develop art, but in actual fact, they are trying to divide us. And we definitely will be divided on that time because my grandson will grow up to know that the Gonja is not part of Northern region, but Savannah region. So the case will get worse by the day. We have Bono, we have Achims, we have but they are still in the same enclave, led by one king, with the same administrative powers. So that's a problem. And you will see young men who should think through, politically will tell you, oh, it's okay. They should divide it. You are trying to stop our government from developing us. We are going back to history.
To see.
So there's a big problem. We shouldn't think politics. Everything should be done by the politicians. When they bring it on, we have to let our chiefs know that, look, this one, they are not coming to develop us. We had a promise. This is not a political message. Yeah. When in front of the king or the paramount chief of Dagbon was promised that they will be given pipe water within a space of 6 months after MPP comes power. This is 5 years. You cannot say this in front of the Ashanti king and have it easy. It won't happen. It won't. We are not trying to challenge them, but we have to look like them. Sometimes you always have to set a standard. That is why in the hospital, we do standard running of tests before you start running the facility in a day. You can't just come and start doing your work. Even in wearing disposable gloves, you have to wash your hands, clean with a nice sterile towel before you wear the gloves. That is standard. So you should always look at the standard. So we need a revolution. Or else one day they will come to the 18 constituencies and tell us that they want to divide it into 2. Into Sanargu West and Tamale, East. We will buy into that, not knowing that without a voice, we cannot ask for our due.
Wow. Dr. Seidu Fitter, thank you very much for engaging us. We'll find another time and have you for a full hour so that we can actually discuss this in detail. Our next guest is online. Dr. Seidu Fitter, thank you very much again.
Thank you.
We really enjoyed this episode of the Cafe Experience. Thank you for coming in this short period of time.
It's a pleasure.
And we hope to have you another time.
Anytime.
Okay, so our next guest on the Cafe Experience, Her Excellency.
Oh, amen to that.
Her Excellency.
Without an espresso.
You're fasting, right?
I'm not fasting like 30 days straight. Like I'll break somewhere 6:20, 6:15. So like.
Yes, it's not up to you. Espresso, you enjoy it whilst you're sitting, like you haven't.
Like I just don't trust I'll see you after, like, because you're such a busy person, so I can't trust. So I want to take it now.
You should trust me. Just trust me.
I'll try.
Don't have faith in me. Trust me.
Okay. I don't know this way to do things.
Madam Khadija, I would like to put a full name. Abdul Samed
Great.
Khadija.
Yes, thank you.
Abdul Samed Khadija. Samar bi Khadija.
Samar.
I want us to look into how can the media in Northern Ghana influence education and economic growth.
Okay.
And the reason why I assembled this episode 8 cast is we had Timtooni Yakubu, brilliant filmmaker. We had Dr. Seidu Fiter, a very passionate young patriot. When I say patriot, not new patriotic party, a patriot. Yes. And now we have a specialist. I call it a specialist when it comes to media.
Okay.
In general. So, how can the northern media influence education and growth?
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks so much. First and foremost, I want to thank Sanatu Zambang for the invite. I think it's an honor. I said this is my first TED Talk. Yeah, because I think in a little bit of it, we'll be talking about tourism, right? And Sanatu Zambang, at least following what you do, you've built this niche in trying to promote the very beautiful sides of the North that traditional media in the North would not really do, because like they would say, it doesn't bring money to the table. You know, we know what sells in the media space. And of course, we must be honest that if you're operating as a commercial body, you want to ensure that you're breaking, you're breaking in. So it does make some sense. But I want to commend you for that and for having me.
Very much. Before you dig in, I just want an introduction, because I just realized that not everybody know this excellency we are talking
Hey,
to.
Rafi, you're giving too much. You're giving too much of me out there, huh?
So I wanted you to just introduce yourself, make an introduction to the topic of discussion, so they will now know who is talking. So that was the trailer. So introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm not Her Excellency probably yet. I don't know what a few saying, but my name is Khadija, as he said. I describe myself as a communication practitioner, because I practice and I teach.
Okay.
I've been doing more of broadcasting, advocacy, and project execution. So I've been doing this for over a decade and some few years. And no, this is not TV, so they can't see what you're doing, so don't go there. And I'm very passionate about how people use media to change the way people think about people, places, countries, nations, identities. Like, because media has this particular power to change the way people think. And particularly for nations, media has been used to shape and move them towards a certain direction. Right? So we're dealing with a resource that is so powerful, but until again we realize that there has to be strategy in the way we use that particular medium, many of the works we do would not really bring out much. So I think this is how I just describe myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's perfect. And how would I put this? So let's now go deep into this. So how can the media in Northern Ghana influence education and economic growth?
Okay, so first and foremost, for the northern media, I must say we've come quite a long way. We've moved from the days where you would just wake up and hear Radio Savannah or GBC blurting, messages from its stereo. I remember when I was teaching in class one time, I gave an assignment to my students to just give me a number of the media houses that are in the north, and I was amazed to find out that we're shooting over 20, 25, like we're moving that far. So that tells you that we've come a long way when it comes to media practice in the north. Though I must say, from my observation, we're still holding on to the traditional side of it. So you have radio, which has been quite dominant, and then TV now coming into the mix, the little doomsaw, up on off thing. But I believe considerably we've come a long way in the northern part. Now, how we can use this to push for education and economic growth, I think one of the first things I have learned from my mentors is always to look at things from first principles, right? So first principles meaning, what is the essence of a thing?
Yes.
Right? So for example, when we say media, what is media and what is it supposed to do?
Yeah.
Do we get the picture? Yes. Basically, if you're looking at it from a basic perspective, we see that media is supposed to inform, educate, entertain, and some will even say persuade, right? If you go deeper to the other levels of, media practice, people would say media is supposed to be the watchdog, it's supposed to be the gatekeeper, it's the fourth estate of the government, but the point is it's supposed to perform a certain role, right? And we do understand as well that media does shape the way people think and see things, right? So understanding it from first principle as something that is supposed to be doing something, to be informing, educating, entertaining, then it means that when I want to set up a media house in the North, for example, these are things I should make very clear in understanding. What do I want to drive? What do I want to push? And not just what do I want to drive or push, but what do I want to produce at the end of the day? What's the results? What's the outcome? What's the impact, right? I handle communications for an organization called SWIDA, Savannah Women Integrated Development Agency. And when you're working in the NGO environment, the conversation is not always about what you are doing. It's about what's the outcome, what's the result. So you just don't say, oh, I went to a radio station and I talked about COVID-19 and I sensitized people. The question is, okay, everybody did that. What did you get as a result? What was the change? Right? So it's not just about, okay, I'm a media house and I have to inform and educate in a vacuum. I'm informing and educating, driving people towards a certain goal or agenda, right? And that has to be part of the media organization's philosophy right from the beginning. So that when I'm coming to Sanatu Zambang, for example, that is a media organization doing stuff. Yes, Sanatu Zambang is a media organization, but what really is it educating and informing about? Do you know? That makes you stand out. That makes you, it's easy for people to recognize and move with you. And it's very easy for you as an organization to what? Measure your own success. You're not measuring success based on how many likes you get, but you're measuring success based on, okay, our philosophy, which is we want to probably change the narrative about how people see the North in aspects of women, creative arts, So it starts from there, right? I'm sure a lot of media organizations in the North, yes, they do have. I don't think there's any media house that has ever come up without that underlying principle of wanting to inform, to educate, to entertain, to persuade. But when we get our philosophies, are we committed to sticking to them when we're not breaking? We're not making ends. We're not breaking even, right? Or when the environment is saying we don't like this. Do you get the picture? Because I believe every media house should have a certain agenda they want to drive, which in all underlining should be to make their community or a certain group of people better. Because they say the more specific, the better. Right? When media houses are able to do that, it makes it very easy for results to be measured. Very easy. Where sometimes I think in the northern media we're a bit tied up is when it comes to sticking to it, the philosophy, why. Sometimes we trade it off for maybe political liking, or we trade it off for the one that gets me a little bit is this is not what the people like. But are you there to make people realize that there's another alternative to what you have and to direct people to finally see that this is what we have and it is good? It's all part of that shaping and changing and making people, sort of see the other sides of what can exist or what can be, right? So in all honesty, I sometimes think that as media houses in the North, we have to see how we become a bit more resilient and stand on our feet when it comes to promoting what we believe should be and can be.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
I know we're going to be bringing in a little bit of tourism in the mix, but for example, we know that tourism is one serious source of revenue. Look at the events, the event we had, I said last year or 2 years, I think the year of return.
The year of return.
How much money government raked from that? That's tourism right there. Right? Yes. So it's one area that doesn't just show you to the world. It educates your own people about your own history. It educates people from outside about you. Right? So this is one area we could look at and package very well as media. I mean, if you're a media house, yes, you do the politics and all that, but space for areas like that, you know, that can make people understand where they are from and also sell you to the world. Very important. Right? And you see, certain things don't give you immediate results, or they don't give you immediate, you don't see there are certain impacts you see in face, yes, but some happen behind the scenes, yeah, right? Yeah. So for example, you have in your station or wherever you find yourself, you decide that for production or for we have to ensure that within a week we're dedicating like 5 or 6 hours to anything tourism, or you know, you get people to talk about a certain place we were just talking about Upper West, yeah, right, where you know there's a lot of things people can see and do there. Yes. Now you may not know what that program can do. Someone somewhere says and be like, I want to invest in that space. Yes. They go there, they develop the infrastructure, then they open for what? Applications for people to be employed, right? So those things don't happen if you as a media space do not open and make people realize that yes, it's good to talk about politics, it's good to talk about lifestyle, it's good to talk about relationships and all that, but hey, there are other areas that open the space broadly for more people. And people have always been creatives, really. It's just that we've not celebrated that either too much, but hey. Yeah.
And I know you've touched on the tourism, that's what you touched on, but how about education? Our guests before you, Seidu Fitter, touched on education and the relevance of education, especially even in in our regions and all that. If we know people discovered Tamale properly when UDS came into being, because before UDS, people didn't have that big imagination about Tamale. They only had little how can media also, because we see movies and we are like, oh, you see like Howard University, you see like this in Princeton, you hear all these universities, and it's the media, it's through the media you hear we are talking about the code vivats and we are bringing a doctor from University of Oxford have come out with a new vaccine design.
Yeah.
How can our media also promote our educational institutions, our academia, professionals? How can our media promote them?
Brilliant question. I mean, when you're just talking about this, yeah, do you know the production that came to mind? Guess. Sun City.
Good.
You get it?
Yes.
I mean, like, I can tell you for a fact that production really inspired me. Like, I want to go to UG. You know, like, this is an educational institution, yeah, right? Someone sits somewhere and is like, hey, how about us trying to because we've heard all sorts of things about university, like we have the naughty guys, you have the nerds, you have the fakes, you have, you know, like, I mean, like, but you see, when you see it, you're like, whoa, you know. I still remember there was this clique, these naughty guys who used to cause, you know, this, I don't know, that I've forgotten the names, but I can remember the likes of Sharon, the late Susie Williams, who was the, you know, the girl, the hot chick kind thing, you know. And listen to what I just said, like, I watched it and I got inspired to go to the university. But further than that, it also it sold the university.
It puts it in a very well, like huge space.
Exactly.
It occupies a very huge space.
Yes.
the way you look at that community, the way you look at the institution itself.
Exactly, and there's something very interesting about the way Sun City went about it. It will be very boring for me to pick a brochure of University of Ghana and read about it.
Yes.
Do you get it? Like, okay, so page 1 is about the vice chancellor, page 2 is about Mensa Sabah Hall, it's about recreation, it's about. But you see, media or creative work has the ability to tell something you could have read in a book so well. Bridgerton, I mean, like, we've all been, but who I heard it's a novel, right? Like, who has read who would have read about it, really? But when it was acted out, it was like, yay!
And even the National Theatre in London actually tweeted that people are crazy about Bridgerton, but they never knew that Bridgerton has been performed on stage for years.
But you see, it's called packaging.
Yes.
You see, so the manner in which the whole series of Sun City was packaged made it. They were actually educating.
Yes.
They were educating people about, because I'm sure they would have showed the halls, they would have showed the spots, because even years after, when I went to UG, I now started connecting, this was the place I saw in Sun City, and it's like an epiphany, right? So this is the thing we're talking about. We have to get to a point where we have strategic alliances. Right. I think it was Dr. or Junaid who talked about, let's stop doing things individually and coming together. It's a problem we have even here in that. I think I've seen it a little more here. And most of the times I believe this boils down to insecurity, where you think you don't have enough to bring on the table. And so someone will floor you but if you have something, it may not be equal, but at least you have something to bring on the table. People want to work with you. Like, educational institutions and the media should have this very, gel-like relationships where we say, okay, fine, we want to do this. Can we use your campus to shoot a movie? Of course, with understanding where it's moving to, because you don't also want to open your space and at the end of the day, the movie or the scene creates some. Because that's what they do in the States. You get to know of some universities in movies.
Do
you get the picture? It's not like they have a set where you go to the school.
And even the character, you look at the let's say the current one is Big Bang Theory. We know Leonard went to Princeton. We know Sheldon went to one of the Ivy League schools. I've forgotten. We know the universities they went to, and it kind of highlighted who they are, the kind of intelligence they all wield and all that. It's through the movie that got to Evan Aston went to Princeton and
you see I love the way foreign universities, like, they see this whole thing as branding and imaging. They'll be ready to give you access to probably the place where, and they preserve a lot of history. Like, so the place where maybe Princeton sat, or I watched this movie, this guy, Adam Smith. Yes, where he actually came up with the idea of that equation he came up with. Like, they're ready to give you those places out to, act so that people can, he went to Princeton. This dude or this person is actually in Princeton acting like, so you have this connection. Mind you, when that happens, the school's image is also, because, people don't, it's of late that the internet thing has just moved in, like maybe we're a decade and some few years into, but who would go and be typing about Princeton? How many people knew about KFC?
Exactly.
I got to know about KFC in cartoons. It's like they were talking about the skin, So it's a huge resource.
And I think if you go to somewhere around Scotland, I don't know this place, where the Harry Potter author sat and wrote the book. That spot is actually a tourist site in that cafe. Where she sat by the window.
Exactly, because it's just amazing. People like to connect with, I don't know how to describe it, but where things started, where it all began. I equally came across, I think it was a book I was reading about Abraham Lincoln. He said he had a cottage or somewhere far off where when it was heated, he would go and sit and write, and it's still there. This is where it began. This is where the great speeches, and that's where it happened. When it comes to educational institutions, I think there's so much we can do. I mean, like, we have to understand our role as Northern media in projecting. We have to sell what we have. Do
you think in one way or the other, aside from the institutions, for instance, we've heard of Zena Lodge. We've never heard Zena Lodge partnering with any media house here.
Thank you.
We've heard of how would I say? There's a museum in Upper East.
Yeah.
Right? We've never heard them partner with any Upper East media. Is it that they also have to reach out to the media? They have to understand that they also need the media to promote whatever they are doing, and we kind of limit media these days to, if you have a social media page, then you are brave with what is happening.
I like the bit that you're talking about. So because I'm so passionate about social media and the whole new media environment, because I believe that even though people claim they have social media platforms and all that, they're not really using it as they should.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Before I come to that, you talked about partnerships, and coming from the NGO sector, we've always talked about this. Look, there's a lot of donor fatigue in the system. Serious donor fatigue, and COVID-19 has worsened it, right? In today's NGO world, it's very difficult to write a proposal as an organization, right, to get funding. Now they're like, okay, get 2 or 3 other partners who are doing what you do, write a joint one, we give you the funding and you execute, right? So the international, everybody's moving towards what? Partnering, strategic. I always like to wear the strategic meaning it's planned, it's everybody's bringing something, we're all benefiting something, and at the end of the day we're giving a result, because they say that nobody rewards a half-done project, right? On the question of who has to reach out to who, I believe we need to,
we the media.
Yes, we need to, because people still, haven't understood to some extent the very critical role media plays in pushing certain areas. And I think, again, it's because we have made it look like media is all about politics. It's like the conversation. So someone at Zena Lodge doesn't even believe that, I can collaborate with Sanatu Zambang or some other media house to do something. It could be as little as having night shows, and then Sanatu Zambang does coverage and then shares it. There's something about digital media. It's called consistency. If you can have the best social media plan and everything, but if you don't have consistency, you're done for. I personally, in the North, or anywhere else, I love to search. Okay, if I want to go out somewhere, because I love hanging out, I want a nice place to just chillax and have fun. The first thing I take is, okay, so where can I go? I pick Facebook. I start checking Facebook if they have a page. I see last post 2018. I get angry. It's not about having the page. It's about letting me know that it is live, it exists, right? If you have a media platform like Sanatu Zambang, and I'm saying this in all honesty, not because I'm here and I want to make it work, but the consistency is there, right? You go to the page, there's fresh content, there's extra old content, content you don't find every day, right? So this is an organization you may want to partner with, because it tells you it's an organization that is not sleeping, it's always creative, it's looking at what's the next step, what can we do, how can we do it differently, right? So sometimes for other organizations outside, they may not know that there's a certain way to go about certain things, right? Since you have the ideas and you have the talent and the way around it, we need to be more courageous, right? This is who I am, this is what I have. And the third most important thing, this is what I have produced. I won't hire someone who hasn't built a house before to build my $1 million house that I want to build, inshallah, right? I won't do that. You have to show me what you have done, right? For me to be willing to be like, okay, A, B, C, D. So if I know, for example, that Sanatu Zambang has done some serious documentary with the BBC, for example, I'm like, hey, I want to work with those guys, because that's your result right there. Do you get the point? So we need to, as media, begin to look at the bigger ways we can make people understand this work we do, and understand that the media can also be used to push social change, to change the way people think about the way things can be done, what can be promoted, what can be seen, and what is available.
All right. So we are just going to end part of it. We are just away some 5 minutes. We've looked at the tourism aspect, we've looked at the educational aspect. Moving forward, what kind of partnership have you imagined should exist, and what can it produce should the media take on the mantle to say that we are going to promote education and economic growth, either through tourism or through economic? What have you imagined? What kind of imagination do you have that if something like that should happen or will happen or is going to happen, how will the outlook be like?
I think it will be amazing. And I foresee us, or I want us to begin to look at partnerships, not just within, but let's be bold enough to look at the outside, beyond the confines of Africa. Within Africa, yes, partnerships between media bodies and organizations in African countries, because we need to tell the African story, and then look beyond the African continent, because there's always something beautiful that happens when East meets West or when North meets South. There's something beautiful that happens, and I love to use these guys, these musicians. They're my favorites. The guys we went for their lunch at Boys. Boys blend the tradition, culture with modern, and it's
life and hip life.
It's beautiful
With a bit of rap.
Exactly, and I just love them for that. You know, so I'm looking at this picture where we begin to enter partnerships, not being insecure, coming to the table with well planned out ideas, and not looking at the ideas as something that we can sleep and wake up and achieve.
Okay.
You need something that wakes you up at night, like, how am I going to achieve this? That's when the dream is huge.
Ibrahim Muhammad said that if you have a dream and the dream doesn't scare you,
no,
then it's not a dream.
If you have a dream and you can sleep throughout the night, it's not big enough yet. Like, you have to get to this point where that partnership you want to happen, 12 midnight, 1, you just started and wake up, Charlie. How is it possible for me to sit down and say that me, Sanatu Zambang, or me, Media X, I'm going to partner with maybe the London Orchestra to see how we can merge, Western music with this local gonje. I'm just imagining how a gonje would sound with a guitar or saxophone, or like, I'm imagining that, because there's always something beautiful that happens when different, bodies or people with different, we come together. It's always beautiful. I think gradually we are getting to the point where some media houses are beginning to learn to partner with NGOs, and which is good, but I think we can take it a step further, like we've already talked about how to partner with education. Let's go beyond the normal.
Okay.
And look at the weird places where partnerships can happen. Because it is right in those places that we get the most brilliant ideas. And let's not just think intra, but inter, within the African continent, and let's expand. You see a company in the UK, in the US, a small organization somewhere that's doing something. Yeah, I mean, social media today, it's very easy to make yourself recognized. Yes. You tag people, you give them an ad, and you push them in. One day it will shock you. Oh, we've realized you do A, B, C, D. We want to come to Ghana and do this with you. That's how it should, I believe, and that's the kind of media I want to see, particularly for Northern Ghana, because we have so much history, but the traditional way of keeping has been oral. Yes. It's been oral, yes. Right? So they say the most prized people are those who sing. Yes, they're the most prized, right? But can we see how we would move from that, right? To see how we can tell those stories through partnerships, strategic partnerships. And I think the North would have such an amazing standing in the world.
Okay. Any final words? I know we are running time. Episode 8 has been very interesting. The conversation keep expanding and expanding. Do you have some final words to give that we find a day and we have you so we can have this discussion?
Yeah, I think I'd like to say thank you to Sanatu Zambang again for the opportunity. My final words would be that for us as Northern people, because I'm very passionate about us, we need to learn to help and grow each other.
Okay.
I think it's something we haven't done too well at. We need to begin to see that there is power in grooming and growing people and encouraging people and working together.
Okay.
There's a lot of power, and we have to become more confident in ourselves, what we have and what we can do, and not so prideful and confident in, yeah, this is what we've done. You know, I think the sticking to our own, it's nice to stick to our past and you know, the development, all that, you know, but I think we have to move beyond to what can we make the Northern region become. You know, a 21st century Northern Ghana, when people will not still think that it's all about trees and grass. Yeah, okay, trees and grass, but probably well-trimmed grass, well-kept cows and sheep, you know. We have to have a sort of confidence in what we can become, you know, and be willing to help each other grow to become that, because it's possible. We have, I agree totally with Junaid or Doctor who said that there's a lot of potential here. There is. You meet people and you're so inspired, but you ask yourself, what's the problem? The problem is we're distant, we're connected. But let's take inspiration from this, like our houses. Our houses have always been built in a circular form for a reason, right? What we learn from there is the unity, coming together. In this case, and northern regions of Sahel, right? And we all have a role to play in that. So let's harness that.
Perfectly said.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Honorable Her Majesty.
Yeah, and I know my espresso is coming at 6:30, so I'll be waiting for that. Thank you.